On this episode of IT Unplugged, you get two old guys ranting about remote work and Gen Z. Stay tuned.
At M2 Technology, we're on a mission to make IT accessible to everyone. Join us on our journey to demystify the ever-evolving world of business technology. Are you ready to get unplugged?
Welcome to IT Unplugged. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Ben.
Today we're going to talk about something that's not divisive at all. It's remote work. Yeah, that thing that makes everybody unproductive and gets them to do their laundry all day long and watch their kids and never do anything.
They don't ever do any work at all, ever.
No.
Not even once.
No, I think this is an interesting one because, and you know, I think you as a guest is going to have kind of an interesting viewpoint because you've worked remotely and you've worked like on site. So in IT specifically, technology employers had the most job posting for fully remote jobs at 18%. So fully, which is kind of surprising. I thought the number was kind of low, but you know, I guess not everybody's make the jump yet. But just kind of curious, you know, what's your experience with remote work? Are you a believer?
100%.
Okay.
Huge proponent.
All right.
I worked at Dell during COVID. Mm-hmm. We sold the exact stuff people used to turn their workforces into remote workforces.
Okay, yeah.
While they didn't want to spend any money on it, because I get it, it's a lot of money to do a huge transition all at once. That's just the reality of the situation. The whole country, the whole world was moving to remote work at the fastest rate it ever had been. Mm-hmm. So we sold the tools that allowed them to do it. We were doing it ourselves. I was selling people software from my basement. And it was just as simple as any other job anywhere else.
Yeah.
There was no change in how I did my job from my cube at Dell or at my house in my basement or my living room or at my kitchen counter or anywhere else.
Okay.
Because ultimately, and this is something Joe and I talked about, if you hire the right people, you don't have to worry about it. Because if you hire someone who's going to slack off at home, they'd be slacking off in the office too.
Yeah.
You know, how often do we get into a conversation in the cubes where it's like, oh, that's 42 minutes gone.
Yeah.
Because we just talked about something completely unrelated to work.
Yeah. Well, I find that so interesting because I agree. It's a talent thing. And I'm going to play devil's advocate here and bounce back and forth, you know. But if you're having a 42-minute conversation in the cube, sometimes your manager can be like, hey guys, get back to work, you know, the autocratic thing. And at home, sometimes there's like not that like correction that's made would be one thing. And then the other thing is I think sometimes the friction to go fully remote because we had to with COVID, right?
Right.
But the other thing is they didn't have the right people to go fully remote.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So then owners or business people are like, well, my people, like, I don't trust them. I don't know if they're being productive because, like, I didn't hire this person because this sounds so weird, but like maybe they were somebody that, like, okay, they can perform, but like, we're going to need to manage them. We're going to need to do this.
Right. And there's some people that do need that.
Yeah.
Some people need more direction and they need to have that feeling of, oh, somebody's going to tell me what to do.
Yep.
So I don't need to find stuff to do.
Yeah.
So, and it comes back to the person. I was homeschooled, so I had to be self-productive.
Yeah.
And I had to be motivated to get my work done on my own without somebody else telling me what to do.
Yeah.
So I'm the perfect kind of person to enjoy remote work because I'm already going to be doing the work, whether I'm at home or I'm at the office. And I find that I'm actually kind of more productive when I'm at home.
Sure.
Because I'm not talking to the three people around me that I could sit and talk to all day long about a myriad of subjects.
Yes. Yeah.
But
well, we have that environment at M2, right?
Absolutely.
There's like people around us, and it's so odd to think in my head and go, okay, I need to get dialed in, like, and I need 4 hours of like deep work, so I can do one of two things. I can stay at home and do 4 hours of deep work, or I can go into the office and put headphones in and then do 4 hours of deep work, and I'm like, do I want to seem like I'm antisocial today or not? So it's so weird that difference.
Yeah. And the beauty of working from home, and this might be one of the questions you have, but the beauty from working from home is if you have a break of 5 or 10 minutes between one thing you just finished and another thing you want to start, you can throw a load of laundry in. Then you don't have to worry about that when you get home.
Yeah.
And you can reclaim all that time.
Sure.
And spend it with your family.
Yeah.
Or, spend it doing a hobby, something you're interested in.
Okay, so let's keep poking this bear a little bit.
Sure.
We have, you kind of mentioned it, like, hey, I was homeschooled, so I have to find things to do. I need to be self-productive. What happens to these people that aren't those individuals in a remote work world? And then what happens, do we just not hire those people in like an IT field where you're going, hey, yeah, you're going to need to be, like, we expect you to be remote or something like that, because it gets to this weird point where it's like you want to treat everybody the same, but not everybody can execute the same. Sometimes when like somebody's remote and somebody's not, and they need to be led. I've had great employees that I make a checklist for, and maybe like this sounds weird, and you're like, well, that's not a great employee, but different jobs require different things, and I can say, here are 10 things that you need to do, and they'll knock out those 10 things. But if there was no checklist there, they're kind of like, what do I do? So what do we do with these workers that I guess like aren't like, is it still possible to be a remote worker and have like somebody that's not fully on board with being like a self-starter, I guess?
It's tougher for sure. And one of the interesting things about the businesses that we work with and the world that we live in is we always hear the phrase equal opportunity employer. And that's true. An employer should be giving everyone an equal opportunity. They have the opportunity to perform and impress people at work. If they choose not to take that opportunity, that is not our fault. It's not our fault, but it could be our problem, depending on what happens. But ultimately, if somebody's not built for remote work, their performance is going to show it. You're going to see a lack of productivity. You're going to see them messing around, or they're always offline on Teams or random other things like that. You can tell. And we've dealt with it at M2. We've dealt with it at other places. It happens. But sometimes it's life. That's a conversation. Sometimes it's people not wanting to do what they want to do.
I think it's like the transparency, and it gets into this weird murky area, and we're going into this weird stuff, and this is not the views of M2, right? But for me, I got a 4-month-old at home and a 3-year-old, and now here's the thing. My wife is going to be taking care of them during the time that I'm working. I'm in an isolated space. So, it's not that bad. I've seen people doing remote work, though, that are like taking care of both of those kids while working. And like people are saying, like, I am so much more productive with remote work. And I'm like, that's a lie. I'm sorry.
That's a lie.
There's no way you're taking care of a small baby and focusing on work at the same time. And I don't want to, poo-poo on the parade because there was like remote work. But I'm just like, do you have to tell people in remote work, like, you have to be, this is me going off on a random tangent, like, hey, you need to be focused on work and not these other things. Because I think that's where the murkiness kind of comes in. And people see those experiences where they're like, someone's taking a meeting at their kid's karate class at like 1:00 in the afternoon. And then after that, they have drop off and this and this. It's like, okay, well, you're kind of playing the role of a full-time parent and like a half-time employee. And I'm going to get flack for that. But I'm just, it's just that weird thing though. It's like, well, would they be more productive in person?
That's fine. But I want to present to you the flip side of the coin. How many businesses have been done at a golf course? How many business deals and major trade agreements and like, how many deals do you think Trump has made at a golf course?
Probably quite
You think he's being super productive there versus being in the office? Like, it's the same kind of thing. What's ultimately at the core of being good at remote work or working outside the office, whatever you want to call it, is a commitment to doing the job. And being willing to put the effort in to succeed. Because if you're not willing to do that, you're going to fail whether you're in the office or not.
Well, that's a very interesting viewpoint too. And then I got to reflect because we just had a conversation about me being old. And like sometimes, like I am a very strong believer in like working more efficient and stuff like that. But I'm also like a measure of work with like, okay, if I'm more productive and I can get more stuff done in 4 hours, like I can get 8 hours worth of work done in 4 hours. Sure. I'm like, well, now I got to take those additional 4 hours and I got to build them back in. So now I'm even a better employee, when maybe that's not always the mindset of younger generations and different things like that. So, yeah.
I would say, and I'm still a millennial, so it's, there's something ingrained in there.
Well, you just turned 21, right?
Yeah, so, 21. 21. I was 21 in 2000, what? I don't even, okay.
Let's not do math on camera.
I'm old. I don't want to do math on camera. You're right.
Yeah, that's never good.
Yeah. It was like 2023. It's 2013, sorry.
Sure.
But yeah, it's been a minute. Mm-hmm. So I've gotten the experience of watching the other generations now, and like Gen Z is hitting the workplace. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole nother experience, watching them come in, and it's like, ooh.
What do you mean by that? What are you seeing? Or what have you seen?
A complete unwillingness to submit to authority. That's the biggest thing to me.
Okay.
I think that's a huge downfall.
Yeah.
And it's all these kids that were raised on tablets and weren't told no, because now it's a bad thing to tell your kids no and to spank your children when they misbehave. Sorry, that's my viewpoint. I'm sticking to it.
Okay.
But these kids, they're running rampant.
Yeah.
And they haven't been told, oh, well, you can't do that. Because their parents were working 2 jobs to survive.
Sure.
And I get that.
Yeah.
Because it's been tough for the last 12, 14
plus years.
Yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
And, their parents have maybe been a little disconnected, and now their own kids are in the workforce. Those kids don't want to listen to their bosses. They don't want to listen to their managers. They don't want to get the things done that their job expects them to do. They can ace an interview because standardized testing has taught them how to regurgitate information on command. But when they actually are asked to perform, some of them just can't do it. Now, I will say there's plenty of kids in Gen Z who can do it just fine. It's every generation has them both. It just seems like it's being more prevalent with Gen Z than I saw it with my coworkers, with my friends. And most of the time it's not 15, 20 millennials getting fired at the same time. But Gen Z has seen those kinds of trends.
Yeah. I wonder if, I think this can be a whole topic. And there's some 100%. People that talk great on generational differences and different things like that. But I mean, as a high school teacher for 5.5 years, like I've seen kids come up through the system. And for me, there's they're in different buckets, right?
Absolutely.
And there's like a lack of trust there was a lack of trust in millennial generation with the government and authority and stuff like that. So there's some of that in there too. But it's like some of them have never, just like you said, never been told no, and there wasn't a whole lot of discipline, even on the school level, because it was like everybody's got to graduate, everybody's got to make sure that we're like making everybody's happy, right? You know what I mean?
Because that's what really matters. Not that people are learning. Not that people can actually be productive members of society. It's because they're happy and because we're moving them to the next grade, even if they failed 4 of their classes.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And then some of the best students were just rule followers, figured out how to play the game.
Yes.
Which is okay too. But then at the same time, like you'd say, okay, create this, and if you didn't give them a rubric, it was like a 100%. Meltdown thing. So it's weird because you have these, just like you said though, there's different sides of each coin with every generation. But you have these people that are coming up, and you're going like, and we were talking about remote work, weren't we?
Somewhere around there.
But they're coming up, and you're like, okay, what is their experience going to be like in the work field? And I just ran into a person that's a banker now at a M&A conference that I taught. That made me feel old. But I'm like, well, that was the kid that
My second cousin graduates today.
Oh yeah.
My second cousin, my cousin's son.
Oh yeah.
I feel so old today.
Yeah. You just get those moments.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's one of those things that I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense that he was successful because you could give him something, he'd run with it. He was creative, he was punctual, like all those things that I didn't necessarily associate with like the general population that I was working with.
Sure.
Good kids, just like was raised different. And then you think of remote work, and different things like that with that generation coming up. So what is that going to look like for that generation? It'll, and they're also very social, I feel like, and that was another thing. So like
They are.
remote work and socialization. I was reading an article that is like isolation is one of the biggest problems with remote work. So I guess, how do you stay not isolated? And do you care if you're isolated?
I mean, to a degree, yes. I still, even though I was homeschooled, I had plenty of kids in a co-op that I was homeschooled with. So I
nice.
had a huge friend group growing up. Through high school, into college. I'm still friends.
Yeah.
One of my best friends is somebody I met when I was 12. So it's entirely possible to not be antisocial or badly socially adjusted and still be homeschooled.
Yeah.
But with the isolation issue, which you can experience both in homeschooling and in remote work, one of the things that I've found is most effective is you make sure that you use the time when you're not working to connect with the people that you enjoy spending time with as much as you can.
Sure.
And you can do that even remotely now in this world. Like, we have Discord. Discord is a fantastic program that has brought people all over the world together, and it has changed the world for the better in a lot of ways. I mean, every piece of technology can be misused, but I see the value in Discord bringing people together just to play the same games on the other side of the country. Or to have fun conversations, or to be able to socialize without having to be able to leave your house or your basement, which I still suggest you get outside and touch grass, but you don't have to be able to find people that have similar interests to you and have meaningful conversations.
Yeah. I wonder if that's you being the young individual you are. No, I just wonder if like that is something that an older generation would like jump on board with, because we're just making so many stereotypes and generalizations.
I know, I get that.
Yeah, it's like every take is a bad one here, but with that being said, like it's like the parents, like, well, maybe not yours, but like, and my parents are pretty young, but
mine are in their 60s. They're in the
really?
They're late 60s.
Mine are in their 50s.
Yeah.
So that's
my parents are in their late 60s. They waited like 13 years to have kids.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, and I was oops. So it was just immediate. But like the generation, even like maybe your parents or whatever, like where they, like, a lot of their friends were from work. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, that was your social environment. And I don't always feel like younger generations are looking for that socialization through work, because it's like there's more, with technology, there's more options that are available to socialize, and you feel comfortable using Discord or playing games with people and stuff, and that's your socialization. But other people's socialization was like, oh yeah, I talked to Terry at work today and we sat by that's their interaction, by the water cooler. And now I don't get that. And then they feel isolated because they don't have your same outlets. So it's weird. Like, how do we bridge that gap, I guess, with isolation with older generations and stuff?
And that's an interesting topic as well, because for the last 7 months, pretty much, I was the only person in my entire department at my previous job.
Sure.
So there wasn't anyone to talk to, really. There were people that I still worked with, but they weren't in the same situation I was, that I could bounce ideas off of and stuff like that. So it was a little bit different of a situation for me, to where whether I was at home or I was in the office, I was still isolated to some degree.
Yeah.
So that's different. Now, working at M2, it's so much better because I actually have a team. I have people I can talk to.
Sure.
I can help with a problem. I can bounce an idea off someone. I can ask for information or advice. It's great. I think that's really important. But with Microsoft Teams, I could do that in the office. Or I could do that at home. Or I could do that sitting on a beach. Or I could be in the Bahamas logging into our VPN. Cough, cough.
Well, okay. So there's a couple things kind of brought up there. And that's one of the things that I've kind of seen with companies that like give you a tool like Microsoft Teams or Slack or these other things, and like, look, here's your socialization tools, and they like force you to use it, or we'd have like,
see, that's the problem.
That's
the problem. The forced use. So I don't know, did you ever, when you were in college, did you ever have online classes?
In college, I did not.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
So for you and maybe other people who are the uninitiated to online classes, one of the required things for online classes is discussion board posts.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I've seen those, yeah.
No one has ever enjoyed or ever will enjoy discussion board posts with a mandatory 1 post per week and 2 replies per week to your co-classmates. No one enjoys that.
Yeah.
It's foolish. Yeah. Yes, I get that it's important to have some kind of collaboration between people in your class and to maybe, form your viewpoint based on other people's opinions to help shape your own. But it should not be through discussion board posts.
Yeah.
I think it should actually be through something like the group projects or with mandatory participation again.
Yep.
But you need to be doing the work.
Yeah.
I had a group project in college that it resulted in me making one of the best friends I've ever had. I went and visited him at the beginning of the month in Virginia. I drove all the way out there. It was part of it.
Yeah.
But this group project, there were 5 people assigned to our group, and one of them didn't want to do any work. One of them was like, and they did a little bit of work. One of them helped us, and then me and him ended up doing the rest. The 2 of us did everything else.
Yeah.
So I think one of those people failed that class because they didn't participate in that group project. But a group project with interesting subject matter can at least draw people in to have a discussion about something more than the cookie cutter responses that you're expected to have, and it's supposed to be 250 words, and your post needs to be 750 words, and you have to make 2 replies every week.
Oh yeah.
And there's no benefit to making more. There's just a penalty for doing less. So it doesn't really encourage anything but following the rules rather than actual socialization.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we were laughing because we were seeing an IT discussion board, or not, it was an IT class, and the first 2 responses were both pulled directly from ChatGPT. 100%. So they were the exact same response. And you're like, ooh, that's funny, because the first thing, I got to get the first response in and just ChatGPT's it in. No, I fully agree with that. And I think it goes back to, even schoolwork, or when it comes to actual in-person work, or not in-person, but, remote work with topics that you care about, right? That can still spark an interest that leads to the socialization. So as you kind of ramp up here, because I feel like we talked about remote work, a very small amount, and then we went into isolation and all this other stuff.
It's all related to remote work, but it's remote work adjacent.
Yes. I have an interesting stat here. It says 75% of IT professionals say the move to remote work has made their companies more susceptible to cyber attacks. So from your experience, what's the biggest challenge that you've seen when it comes to remote work?
So cyber attacks are definitely an issue. We see it all the time nowadays. And with people working in different locations and the flexibility that remote work does offer, there's also that potential. And one good example is if somebody likes to work from Starbucks. They go to Starbucks, they connect to the internet, they connect to the network that's called Starbucks Guest Wi-Fi. That's unlocked, that anyone can connect to, and it's not actually Starbucks Guest Wi-Fi. It's some guy sitting in the corner with a Hack 5 pineapple who's now stealing your personal information as it's being transmitted across the network in plain text, and that they can see,
crazy,
and getting your passwords. So the factor of that is definitely an added risk. Absolutely. Having the correct technology in place, like a VPN, like we use, absolutely imperative. It's got to be done. Because otherwise, your traffic isn't being encrypted. You're connecting through an untrusted source. You want to either be using a company VPN or a VPN service that there's lots of them out there. But either way, I feel like that's the best tool to prevent those kind of cyber threats. And even then, they still happen. People hack your iCloud account, and they can get your 2-factor because the text message they have sent to your phone also shows up on their computer because they're in your iCloud account.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of steps to be taken before someone takes the full, like, we're a remote work company now, and just flips the switch.
There's definitely a process to it.
Yeah. Well, I think this topic can be just on and on and on. I feel like we got to get someone in here to talk about generational differences with this.
I would love to. I would love to have someone like 21, 22.
Yeah.
Like maybe our intern.
Yeah.
To get in here, and we all have a discussion about that, because I would love to see the opinions of someone else who is younger, who's still in school.
Yeah.
Who
absolutely
would maybe be able to give us a different point of view that would be productive.
Yeah. So and this is just you've crossed over now. So because we talked about a 21-year-old, just two old men ranting about the older generation.
Get off our lawn!
Remote work. What's that? No, I'm just kidding.
All right, kids in your YouTubes.
Well, thanks so much for watching IT Unplugged, as we just went off on some random tangents. But, most of the time we're talking about IT and businesses and other things like that. So make sure you tune in, and we'll see you next time.